nice. Room service, if I like, I order twice. Hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to another edition of the Steelers Q&A. My name is Jeremy Betts, and welcome into the show. We are going to go solo tonight, but that's okay. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to ask some questions here and try to get some answers to what has been, for lack of a better term, just a wacky offseason so far for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So many moves have been made. So many moves are waiting in the wings. QB situation is up in the air. I titled the show QB or not QB. That is the question. What are they going to do at the quarterback spot? And I mean, it is the predominant question amongst Steeler fans, as it should be. It is the predominant question for me. And I want to talk about this. I want to get some of my thoughts out here, and it might not be popular with everybody, but I want to have some fun, some discussion with the listeners. Afton and Daredevil are in the chat already. We need some more people in the chat. Hop in, give me your questions. Let's talk about the quarterback situation. Let's talk about moves yet to be made. Anybody else we're looking at, the draft. Let's talk about all of that here on the show, and we'll get into all of it because it's really intriguing for how the Steelers are going to handle themselves over the next few weeks. So let me just start off ground rules here. Mark Cunningham, welcome into the chat. Thank you, Mark. Brad Bowman is in here. Says, I'll pull this up. Afton Forehead says, Florio says Flacco is an option. And Brad Bowman says, please no Flacco. I agree with you, Brad. I think there's going to be a few people that would agree with that assessment here. Afton, I wonder what your thoughts are. Would you want Flacco in this building? I'm going to say no. Let's not have any Flacco to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That doesn't inspire me in the least bit. You've got a Flacco-like character in the room now already in Mason Rudolph as far as talent goes, and maybe he's got a little bit more upside than that. But I would not be touching Joe Flacco in this cycle. You know who I would be all over? You know who I would be waiting on still, just as the Steelers are doing, is Aaron Rodgers. I absolutely would wait and see what Aaron Rodgers' decision is before moving on to other options if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's multiple reasons for that. I think that there's a significant portion of the NFL world that does not understand that Aaron Rodgers still has plenty of talent left to elevate the Pittsburgh Steelers beyond what they even had at quarterback last year. If it were reversed and the Steelers had Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson, the Steelers are a better team in 2024 with Aaron Rodgers on the team. And I know that a lot of people are going to point to what he did in New York and talk about how his attitude problems and his control of the organization led to a lot of their issues. And I will not deny that, but I will say that there is a difference between the Jets organization and what they will allow to go down from a player and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization and what they will allow to go down from a player. And when Aaron Rodgers was brought to the Jets, he was brought in to be the savior, to be the face, to be the tide that raises all the boats. He was brought in to change the Jets from laughingstock to real contender, to Super Bowl contender. There were a lot of big name analysts, a lot of smart football people who thought that the Jets were a true Super Bowl contender with Aaron Rodgers in the fold. And in 2023, before the injury, I would not have disagreed with that take, that they were a true Super Bowl contender based on the seasons that we saw out of him at 38 and 39 years old. It was incredible stuff from him even at that age. So what I'm saying is that as a Pittsburgh Steeler, you could bring him in and you would not have nearly any of the drama that you had in New York with Aaron Rodgers in the building. In fact, you might have what those of us Star Wars fans would call a balancing of the force in Pittsburgh, because Mike Tomlin wants to do things his way. Aaron Rodgers wants to do things his way. That unlikely marriage could balance each other out in an incredible way for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if my eyes are not completely deceiving me, and I don't think they are, Aaron Rodgers has plenty of talent left to give to a team that wants to go and try to make something of themselves in 2025. And in Pittsburgh, without or inside an organization that does not open itself up to being torn down from the inside every other year, there's a level of stability to where Rodgers doesn't need to come in and be the face. He's going to have to understand that at the very beginning. He's not coming in to be the face of the franchise. All he's coming in to do is help this team get to a place that it hasn't been since Ben Roethlisberger. Playoff win contention. And to me, he can do exactly that. And you won't see nearly any of the drama that you saw in New York, because the organizations are two completely different things. I don't think many of us inside Pittsburgh understand just how good we have it from an organizational standpoint, even with their flaws. Not saying they don't have flaws, but look outside of Pittsburgh at some of the issues going down in other organizations, specifically teams like the New York Jets, and you can sit there and say that is poverty franchise stuff. That is a franchise that has lost its way completely, and there is no track to something better when you bring even when you bring in big time talents with big personalities in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' big personality could be limited in Pittsburgh. The talent, I think, could also elevate the Steelers roster to something really good. Gavin brings up a good point. Didn't you see the drama in Green Bay, which is as good, if not better, than us? Yes, I did see the drama in Green Bay. I also saw Aaron Rodgers as the face of that franchise already. And then you had Matt LaFleur coming in and trying to mold the team in his image to the offense that he wants to run. Some bucking of heads there, and eventually Aaron Rodgers wanting out. But Aaron Rodgers didn't want out so fast that he didn't put up 2 MVP seasons with Matt LaFleur and the Packers. So yeah, there was some drama there. But again, he was the face of that franchise. He's not going to be the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have 5 faces before Aaron Rodgers even comes into the frame. You got Mike Tomlin. You've got Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, you got all these guys already. I mean, DK Metcalf, big name acquisition there. He's gonna be a big deal on campus, if you will, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there are so many ways that Aaron Rodgers is not the face of the Pittsburgh Steelers that he was in Green Bay. So I do get that point, but this was a guy in Aaron Rodgers who had been in Green Bay his whole career, had done things one way under Mike McCarthy, got used to it, a lot like Ben Roethlisberger did, right, in Pittsburgh, wanted his guy next, didn't happen so much, and then things fell apart. So, but not so fast again that Aaron Rodgers did not put up big seasons and win playoff games for the Packers. So let's go. Bring in Aaron Rodgers. See where he can take you. You can't be worse bringing him in. You can definitely be better. And money, whatever, it's not going to be $40 million, $45 million a year. It's not. It's going to be closer to 30, and that's totally fine with me. And then you can move off of him easy. You can. You don't have to do anything to where he lasts beyond 2025 if you don't want him to. So bring him in, and you can wait for him. You've got Mason Rudolph, and I will say this: I love Mason Rudolph as the backup option, right? If Mason Rudolph has to start all season, I'm fine with that. Wherever he takes you, I'm fine with it. If it's 6 wins because he's not that good, that's fine. If it's 9 to 10 wins and you have to trade up in the draft for a quarterback, that's fine. I don't think it's going to be a double-digit win season if Mason Rudolph is the quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, I would say minimum expectation is a double-digit win season. So that is my Aaron Rodgers take. And there's going to be a lot of people that just don't want him on the team. And I'll say this, I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I never have since he knocked the Pittsburgh Steelers off in the Super Bowl. I mean, he took away Lombardi 7 from us. So I don't like that. I don't. And would I prefer the Steelers to win Super Bowls and win playoff games with their homegrown talent, with a Kenny Pickett type player because he was brought in as the quarterback? Yeah, that would be my preference. But I think you can do that in 2026 when you draft a quarterback. If you make the right choice at quarterback and put the right pieces around him, you could have that next guy that can take you those places. It's okay to be a bridge team for a little bit while you try to figure that position out. So that is my take on all of that. I'm going to come back here in just a minute after a quick break to answer some questions that have been put in the chat, to talk through some of these things. I've given my spiel, my monologue on the whole situation. When we come back after the break, if you're listening live, we're not going anywhere. But if you are listening on audio, then take a quick break here. We'll have a couple ad reads, and then we will be back here on the Steelers Q&A. And welcome back to the Steelers Q&A. My name is Jeremy Betts, and I am here with you. Thanks to everybody in the chat talking away about the Aaron Rodgers situation, talking away about some other good stuff. Mark Cunningham did ask this question. I want to get to it. For how long, sir? And I think that was in reference to how long would you wait for Aaron Rodgers? Till the draft? Is that fair? I would wait till the draft, because you have your contingency in place in Mason Rudolph. You can wait as long as you want to at this point. There's going to be some guys that are available that are fine backups after the draft. And even in the draft, like Tyler Shuck in the 4th round, he can be your backup all season. You're fine. You would feel fine with that. I would feel fine with that. If you took him in the 4th round, he could be the backup all season. So I'd wait until the draft if I'm the Steelers before making any other choices at quarterback. I don't think it's going to take that long. I really don't. But that's how long I would wait, Mr. Cunningham. Let's see. Afton says, in my opinion, Rodgers will announce his retirement. Everyone will hate him more. That may be so. That's totally fine with me. The one thing I will say, I am kind of at the point where whoever the Steelers quarterback is for 2025, I don't care, really. I really don't. So while I would push for Aaron Rodgers as the best option of anybody left, I would also say if he doesn't sign, if he retires, if he goes somewhere else, that's fine with me. I don't care. I don't care if Mason Rudolph starts all year. That's fine with me. If Joe Flacco comes in and has to start some games, that's fine with me. I would say I hope that doesn't happen, but I guess if that has to happen, that has to happen. I'm okay with that. So this team is not about the quarterback right now. Eventually, it needs to be. It should have been already if the Steelers had found their guy, right? But they didn't. And they tried. You can't fault them for not trying. Maybe they didn't try when they needed to, when Ben Roethlisberger was still here, but they have tried since Roethlisberger left. And I don't know, there's something to be said for letting a guy play out his legacy for the same team in Roethlisberger without hindering that, and trying to put the best team around him you can. They didn't always do that. Obviously, the offensive line, his final year was ridiculously bad. So, but trying to find the quarterback since Roethlisberger, they've been throwing darts. They need to throw some more this year. They need to throw some more next year as well. So that is my take on the length of time to wait and, how the quarterback's situation will play out. Anyway, it happens. It's fine with me. Gavin Anthony, do you think trading for Malik Willis is a good idea? I think that's a fine idea. I really don't hate that idea. I wouldn't want necessarily to give up the draft pick at this point because you've already done that, a 2nd round draft pick. So I don't know if I would do that necessarily for Malik Willis. The guy I would trade for is Joe Milton in New England. The upside, the untapped upside there is really interesting to me. But the natural talent and ability there, Malik Willis is still intriguing. Obviously Andrew Wilbar would want him in. That's still his guy. But I don't know. His career sounds like a backup who can get you through a few games in a good offensive system. I think that plays into it. That's part of why I didn't want Sam Darnold. I didn't think the Steelers were built around the type of quarterback Darnold was, where he needed the system to back him up. I think Malik Willis kind of is going to need that too. But I think in Joe Milton, you saw in New England where it was a total mess last year. He came in and put up fantastic numbers, looked really good with the ball in his hands and throwing it down the field and making decisions, playing some backyard ball, the things that you knew that he was going to be good at. And he did outside of structure. So I could see a guy like that working anywhere if he can continue to build on that. I'm not saying he's the next elite quarterback or anything like that, but he's got some upside and potential, even more so than Malik Willis. So that's why I would go, if I'm going to trade for somebody, I'm going for Joe Milton, not necessarily Malik Willis at this time. But if you have to go for somebody as your backup, you could do worse than Malik Willis and bringing him in. So don't hate that. Let's see here. Daniel Red, when I was talking about Aaron Rodgers earlier, says, nope, I'll take Mason and Minshew. That's fine with me. That's fine with me, but I want Rodgers first. I do. I want Rodgers first if he'll become a Pittsburgh Steeler. So let's see here. Mark Cunningham says, you might be right, JB, if he's all in, but he wants to go to Minnesota. So if Rodgers comes back and plays this year, you can bet he's all in. All right. You don't come back to the NFL at 41 years old, 42 years old, and not be all in for whatever that last ride is going to be. Okay. That to me is just not happening. Especially with a legacy guy like Aaron Rodgers. The legacy didn't work out in New York. He wants to make sure wherever he goes next, the legacy works out. That's the other thing too. I don't mind him waiting around to make his decision. It's the last football decision for where he's going to play that he's probably going to make in his career. That's fine with me. Go to the best spot for you to try to cement your legacy. It's what heck any one of us would have done, right? I think that that's fair to say. And, to make it like he's the bad guy for holding these organizations up or whatever. He's not keeping the Steelers hostage. He's not keeping the Steelers hostage. They got Mason Rudolph. Nobody else besides Rodgers was moving the needle for them. Even Russ, he wasn't moving the needle for them for 2025. Not more so than Mason Rudolph and maybe a rookie that you draft this year to see what that combination does, or Mason Rudolph and nobody else, and you just get through the season to 2026, and that's your rookie quarterback that you go with. So, I mean, he's not holding the Steelers hostage. This is their choice. He's not sitting there, or they're not sitting there saying, oh, Aaron, please make up your mind because we can't do anything without you making up your mind. They're waiting. They're playing the comp pick game. I firmly believe that. They're playing the comp pick game. They're not adding in a bunch of big-time talent in free agency this year that's not cut, released, or a trade candidate. So I think he would be all in if he came here, Mark. I think he does want to go to Minnesota. I would want to go to Minnesota if I'm a quarterback. Play for KOC. I mean, sign me up for KOC over Arthur Smith. I'm sorry. It's the best quarterback situation you can go to in the league. So that just makes sense. But if Minnesota doesn't want him, and it sounds like they don't really, then Pittsburgh's next best. I'm not going to the Giants. It's too much of a rebuild for my last year if I'm Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to Pittsburgh. I think he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, by the way. I'll by the time we're talking next show, Aaron Rodgers will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let me know in the comments what I should do if that doesn't happen. We'll get to that. Let's see. Okay, good question here about the draft from John Malesko. Lots of talk about Shuck, Dart, but what are your thoughts on Riley Leonard and Curtis Rourke? Riley Leonard to me is not an NFL passer. He's an athlete. He's an NFL athlete. He's going to need to make a position switch if he wants to have an NFL career. I don't think he's going to make it as an NFL passer. Curtis Rourke, I'm a little bit more intrigued by as a passer. The size, the athleticism's there. He made some insane throws this season before things kind of fell apart for him down the stretch. So there's more tools to work with there. Riley Leonard, though, dynamic as he was for Notre Dame, for Duke, I just don't know. I don't see NFL passer in his resume. And so I'm going to pass on Leonard, but I'd bring in Curtis Rourke with a 7th round pick or an undrafted spot to see what you get out of that. I don't want anything to do with Jackson Dart at 21. If Jackson Dart was there in the 3rd round, I'd jump on Jackson Dart. That'd be fine. I don't want anything to do with Jackson Dart in the 1st round. Pittsburgh, stay away from that. Don't even go near that. The only here's another one you guys might kill me for. The only quarterback I'm touching in the 1st round, if he gets to 21, outside of Cam Ward, is Shedeur Sanders. I'll go for that. I'll see what he can do in Pittsburgh. But I wouldn't necessarily love that either because I like next year's quarterback class more. To me, go get your future backup in this class in Shuck or Will Howard or Kyle McCord. Go get one of those guys in this class in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, and then get your quarterback. Go all in to go get your quarterback in the 1st round next year. Get one of those 4 guys or 3 guys that's going to be there and make that your game plan. Let's see. John Malesko says, a little off topic, but if Rodgers spurns the Steelers, you think he will have the balls to show up at Pat McAfee's Big Night At show in Pittsburgh? I don't know. That's a good question. I wonder if that's going to be televised because I'd like to see it. I just won't be able to be there. So that'd be funny, though. Let's see. Oh, we got some breaking news. The Steelers have signed free agent defensive tackle Daniel Ekwali per his agent Blake Baratz, the 31-year-old from Samoa. Ekwali started 16 games for the Patriots last season, a depth signing that comes in over our breaking news channel. This is reported by Alan Saunders on X. Just seeing that now. So we have a new defensive tackle, Steeler fans, a late Sunday night addition to the team. Daniel Ekwali. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm going to have to do some Daniel Ekwali research after this is over. You guys, if you want to throw him in the chat with some information, if anybody knows anything about him, let me know. But there's some depth at defensive tackle, something we've been looking for. Probably not going to hit you where it counts in the comp pick formula. So I am down with this. Let's get some people in the building. Let's do it. Let's see. Did I answer this? I think I did. I don't think he's going to show up if he spurns Pittsburgh, but I'll have to check it out to see if he does. I'll have to check it out. What's the story with the plywood? Hey, you don't want to know. So, but I'm telling you anyway, the whole back half of my house has been knocked off the back end. We're remodeling. So we're down to 800 square feet of house space right now, while we try to put on another 700. So we're going to go from, well, originally we were just under 1,000 square feet. We're going to go to a 1,500 square foot house doing a remodel. But so I've got plywood up and some insulation back there over what used to be a closet. Now it's walk out into the open air. So this is my world that I'm living in currently. So, yeah, so improvements coming here as well as hopefully in the Steelers organization, hopefully faster in Pittsburgh than it's happening here. But that's the story with the plywood. So, you can see up above, other hand, that right there used to be a sliding barn door that I built, but it's gone because no closet there anymore. Now it's just outside. So, let's see. We got another believer. Gavin Anthony says, Jeremy, you've convinced me that Rodgers is a better option than Russ, but I'm still unsure if Rodgers is ideal. Okay. So yeah, better than Russ for sure. Right. Better than Russ for sure. In my point. Let's see. I think that Aaron Rodgers will make a lot of Steeler fans happy when he's throwing passes in September and October, and Steelers fans are starting to feel like they have a shot at something fun in 2025. Boxing Man 1 says Rodgers is done. I totally disagree. Boxing Man 1, totally disagree. I think you can't watch the second half of last year's film and think that. You just can't, in my opinion. But maybe you do. I don't know. Sorry, I just disagree. Let's see. Oh, I mentioned Rodgers took a Super Bowl away from the Steelers. The fumble took the Super Bowl away. That is true, but I mean, the Steelers defense could not stop Aaron Rodgers and coming in the first half of that game. So rough. Okay, here's a good question. Brad Bowman, would Rodgers even show up at camp or other mandatory functions? In my opinion, yes, he would for a brand new team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he will be all in for that. He'll be all in to play for Mike Tomlin. He'll be all in to play and show that he's not a organization ruiner, but an organization savior. That's what he's going to be all in to do. I think he would show up to everything, be very active in all of that mandatory functions. I may be drinking the Kool-Aid, Ians. I may be, okay? But I'm going to keep drinking it until I have to spit it back out. We'll see. Daniel Red says, we need a 4-13 season, in my opinion. What's yours on a losing season? To get in range for a quarterback without having to trade up, 4-13 is probably it. That's a top 10 pick. You'll probably get one of those guys in the top 10. But trade up range, I think you can get around 7 or 8 or 9 wins. I think you can make that work. The way the comp pick formula plays out, you can trade some people too if you need to. You can add draft picks in different ways. They'll have an opportunity. So 9 or fewer wins gets you in good range to draft somebody. If Aaron Rodgers comes in and they're really good this year somehow, right? And they like win a division or win a playoff game and they're picking, I don't know, they're picking back into the playoffs 25 or after, something like that. You're going to need some other help to get that pick. Somebody's going to have to be traded. There's going to be, you're going to have to go into future year first rounders, things like that, which is fine with me. To get the quarterback is fine with me. I'll trade the farm for a franchise quarterback. Everybody was getting on Colin Cowherd last year for saying trade TJ Watt, use all that, go up and get Caleb Williams. I would have done that for Caleb Williams. I would have done that for Drake May. Would have done that for any of those guys personally. Again, hate me if you want, but that's just the way I feel. Jerry JWA says, no way, trade for a quarterback or something. Waiting until the draft to know who your QB is wild. It makes sense. You've already got Mason in the building. You're comfortable with what he brings. He's the contingency plan. You have your contingency plan already. He's your quarterback until something else happens, but I would wait till the draft personally. But I get the qualms with it because it's out of the box. It's different. So we'll see. Chris G says, no reason to rush Rodgers. If we don't sign him, we start Rudolph. No downside in waiting. Absolutely. My opinion as well. Al on the Prowl says, Rodgers will get obliterated behind this offensive line. I don't think so. Go watch the tape again. Aaron Rodgers has plenty of mobility left. Plenty of mobility. He would be the best pocket maneuvering quarterback that the Steelers have had since Roethlisberger, bar none. Better than Russ, better than Justin Fields. His feel in the pocket is one of his best qualities, still is. It's one of those things he can keep doing for as long as he needs to do. He will not get obliterated behind this offensive line, in my opinion. I would disagree with that. Afton Forward says Rodgers doesn't hold the ball. That's 1+ for this whole line. If he sees it in the play design, you're right. It's out of his hands and he can get there quickly. He was doing so in the second half of the season last year because he recognizes coverages. He sees things faster and he's still got the arm talent to get it there. And he'll throw over the middle of the field. He'll throw down the sidelines. He'll do whatever you need him to do. He will hold the ball when there's nothing there. But again, like I was saying earlier, he's got the mobility to get out of jams in the pocket enough to where he can still make plays in backyard ball. And the Steelers haven't had anybody that's been able to do that really since Roethlisberger, right? Kenny Pickett showed some of that. Justin Fields had a couple plays, right, where it looked really good. And you saw the upside with him. But Rodgers is just different. He's Mahomes-like in his ability to navigate the pocket, even still at 41. Call me out if you want to. I believe it. Chris G says the offensive line is allowed to develop. They can get better in another year in the league. Yes. And you adding basically another first-round pick this year in Troy Fautanu to that line. And Mason McCormick is another year better. Isaac Seumalo is another year healthy, right? I think Broderick Jones is going to be fine on the left side. Give him some time. Give him some help out there until you feel comfortable with it. But that's why you got Darnell Washington, right? Have him help you out there and get where you need to go with Rodgers as your quarterback. Let's see. Going back to Joe Milton, can Milton learn control after 4-S? Yes. Yes, he can. He can learn it. Will he learn it? I don't know. Is the Steelers coaching staff the one to help him learn it? I don't know. Can he naturally develop some of that on his own? That's where I think that maybe we've been overlooking his talent. Alan the Prowl says Milton would be a good option. I think so too. What do you guys think? And maybe there's some questions about it that I'll get to here in a second. But what do you guys think about the rookies in this class? I don't think anybody gets me excited outside of Cam Ward. So I don't know. I think that that's something to keep an eye on, right? Is how the Steelers attack it at the quarterback spot, because there's so many options that aren't good on their face value, right? Joe Milton is a stretch. Malik Willis is a stretch. Aaron Rodgers even is a stretch. Like what are we going to get out of him at 41, 42? There are some questions there, obviously, but I think that he's going to be motivated. Like I said, he's going to come in and really get things rolling. So, sorry, I'm looking for questions, so that's why I got off track a little bit there. Here, okay. After before I'd ask one that I want to talk about. Your choice at 21 are Shador or Egbuka. Who are you picking? In my opinion, I'm picking Egbuka because I want next year's quarterback class. But it would not shock me, nor would I fault the Steelers for trying to find their guy this year, because somebody falls in your lap that was originally considered a top 10, top 15 guy, even in this draft class, right? He's still a top 10, top 15 pick in most draft classes is what everybody's saying. He's a better prospect than Kenny Pickett was. He's got more going for him, but still, I would say save it for next year and go get Egbuka, who can help your team. Go get one of those defensive tackles. I think that's where they're going to go. They're going to go with one of the defensive tackles, Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, one of those guys. We talked about that last week too. So, but Egbuka, I would take over Shador, just from my personal opinion on that. But I think that they would be fine in their minds to go ahead and try Shador Sanders, because, again, throw those darts. Keep throwing those darts. Mark Tobin says, would you take defensive tackle or a receiver or a quarterback in round one? If I had my pick of the three, it's defensive tackle. Load me up in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. Give me that help. Figure out receiver. There's ways to get receivers. There's more receivers. There's not as many high-end defensive tackles that you can just go get on the contract of a first-round draft pick. Those guys make big money. Go get them. Go get them in the draft. Let's see. John S. agrees with me here. That's tough, Afton. I still think you wait to draft in 2026 for a quarterback. I agree with that philosophy. That's how I would handle it if I was leading the team, but I'm not. So we'll see what they do. In fact, let me put it this way. I think it would be, if the Steelers draft a quarterback in the first round this year, in lieu of drafting one in the first round next year, that is mismanagement to me at this stage, how we see things. But if you draft one this year, Shador Sanders this year, and he works for you in 2025, like immediately you see that this guy has what it takes. And like it's a Roethlisberger rookie season, and you're like, okay, we've got something here. That's fine. But if it's just an okay season and you're like, okay, well, we need to see more, like with Kenny Pickett, so we're not going to draft a quarterback again in 2026, I think that's the wrong way to play it. If he's just okay, you go get the quarterback again. You keep throwing those darts. You cannot have too many good quarterbacks. The Patriots are finding this out too. You drafted Drake May. You got Joe Milton, who showed all these things in that one game, right? And now teams are like, ooh, can we trade for him? Could we get this guy in our building? Even to the point where the Patriots brought in Josh Dobbs as a backup in case they do decide to trade Joe Milton. So, yeah. Mr. Wood CY, Mr. Woodside says Rodgers throws a lot of 4-yard outs. Somebody needs to. Somebody needs to throw those 4-yard outs and let the guys make plays. Yeah, he does throw a lot of 4-yard outs. Russell Wilson threw a lot of checkdowns. Russell Wilson also throws, Aaron Rodgers also throws a lot of ropes down the middle of the field. When's the last time you saw that out of a Steelers quarterback? So give me the 4-yard outs and the ropes over the checkdowns and the mindless bombs down the sideline, the mindless moon balls. That's what I would say. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find a good one here. Let's see. Okay. Chelsea Durham says, I am on board with Rodgers. Who do you like out of next year's QB prospects? Well, nobody's declared yet, obviously, but I really like. Let's start with Drew Aller. Okay, the traits are all there. The return to college to play another year was a fantastic decision by Drew Aller. He is going to improve his draft stock tremendously this season. I really believe that. He's going to show a lot of things in his development this year that's going to make him probably one of the the second or third quarterback in the choices. Obviously, you've got the Manning kid, who, if he comes out next year in the draft, he's going to probably be the first overall pick. So unless the Steelers absolutely tank the season and can somehow get that, I don't think you're getting Arch Manning, you guys. That would be my take on it. So I like Drew Aller. I like the kid from Tennessee. I can't pronounce his name. But the kid from Tennessee has a lot of hype and he's got a lot of upside. Needs to put on some weight, needs to put on some poundage. But after watching Jaden Daniels and what he did this year, I don't mind that nearly as much as I used to. And I think that is it Iggy? That's what they call him, Iggy, for the Tennessee Titans, the Tennessee Volunteers. I think that he's going to be a good one. So there are 3 or 4 guys here that you like their prospects of, and so that's what I'm kind of hitching my wagon to. And the draft's in Pittsburgh. That's the splash he's going to make. Oh, okay. Mark Cunningham says, come on, Bets. He has a quick release, but no way he's more mobile than Fields. Come on, man. Okay. If I said that he was more mobile than Fields, that's not what I meant. Is he better in the pocket? Does he have better pocket feel and maneuverability than Justin Fields did? 100%. 100% he did. Justin Fields' maneuverability in the pocket is not good. It's part of the reason why he struggles as a passer. He does not feel in the pocket well. This is just fact. And you watch all the tape you want. He is great getting outside the box. He is great getting moving sideline to sideline, and that's fine. But Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, none of those guys, mobile quarterbacks that they are, have better pocket mobility being the key part of the phrase there, than Aaron Rodgers. So I did not mean to say that Aaron Rodgers is more mobile than Fields, like a better runner or a better scrambler or anything like that. But Aaron Rodgers is 100% a better, or has better awareness in the pocket, and better pocket feel and better pocket mobility than Justin Fields ever has shown in his career. That's what I'll stand by there on that one. So sorry if I sounded confusing, but that is what I was going for. John S., that's exactly right. I don't think he said mobile. He's saying pocket awareness, moving around the pocket. That's right. Let's see. Mark Tobin says, who is Milton and what's so great about him? He's a guy. Last year, I mentioned him on this show a lot. Probably last year, I had him in every single one of my mock drafts. I was fine with taking him in the third or fourth round last year in the pre-draft process. Turns out he didn't go into the 6th round or something like that. 7th round, maybe. Can't remember. But 6'6", or 6'5", something like that. Prototypical size, really good runner, massive arm. Those were the highlights. And then some of the things you saw out of him in Tennessee were just mind-bogglingly insane. When you talk about traits and prospective abilities. So that's why I was high on him, and I would have taken him as the only quarterback I would have taken last year if I was the Steelers. The Patriots jumped on him. I think that's what I would say out of him. Afton kind of backs me up with her comment here as well. All right. So there's a lot of good questions in here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them all before we're going to have to go here. So let's just see. Let's just kind of wrap this thing up. Oh, here's one, a draft related one. So I'll bring it in. Jason Winningham. Do we draft 3 defensive tackles to upgrade the defensive line? No, 1 or 2. I would go for 2 potentially. I draft a nose tackle type and then another pass rush type, 3-5 tech type. So that's kind of how I would go. Yes. Oh, here's the other one. I should have mentioned him. G Stacks 434 says, I like South Carolina quarterback Lenore Sellers. He's really interesting too. I don't know. Is he coming out this next year? I don't know. I'll have to check that again, but he's interesting as well. Believers says, with them expecting multiple comp picks, do you see them using some capital from next year to move up in the first or maybe move back into the second round? For next year, I think the comp picks are going to play into moving up in the first round to get a quarterback. If you miss out on that first wave of quarterbacks, you might as well not draft one as your starter, right? As your prospective starter. You can draft one again with another bridge guy in place, but I think the Steelers are tired of that ball game. So you draft the high end QB in the first round next year with some of those comp picks that you're able to move up, and you try to prepare him as your starter with a guy on the roster like Mason Rudolph, right? Who can start games if you need him to before the rookie's ready. That I will say this, right? The one thing that I do not trust inside the Steelers organization is for them to figure out how to put these guys in position to succeed once they're there. Man, the way the Steelers handle their rookies sometimes is super frustrating. The Philadelphia Eagles don't win a Super Bowl last year unless they put their first and second round picks in action right away because they know that they need them. And that full season experience made them who they were. It's why they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the defensive line played a huge part in that, getting after Mahomes. But Cooper DeJean had a pick 6 in that game, right? You needed those points to win. You needed that impact from those guys to win that game, to put things out of reach for a Kansas City team that can come back from anything. So the Eagles, they drafted their guys highly because they fit their system and because they needed them, and they plugged them in and let them play, and they figured it out. And the Steelers need to do that as well. So, yeah, I think that this is the Steelers in a nutshell. Front office, I think they have a really good front office. I think they have a really good shot to have a really good front office. Can this coaching staff, can Mike Tomlin, can his small coaching staff, the guys that he hires, they put these guys in position to succeed? It's been coaching malpractice on the offensive line, where they've been putting guys, how they've been playing them, how they've been deploying these guys after they draft them. That's been mismanagement from the get-go. It's got to be better. And when you're talking about the quarterbacks too, it's got to be better. You could have the guy and screw him up too bad to be able to use him because you don't know how to handle things from a deployment situation in Pittsburgh, because Mike Tomlin is stuck in his ways and only does things a certain way. So there are plenty of things. I speak positively about the Pittsburgh Steelers a lot. All right. Speak positively about the coaches. I speak positively about the players. I speak positively about their approach in the front office and things like that. But that does not discount that there are some serious issues and some serious trust issues I have as a fan with what they can do. That is one of those areas. So, objectively, the Pittsburgh Steelers can be two things at once. They can be good evaluators of talent, and they can be poor deployers of that talent. I think that's been some of the issues with why their draft picks haven't worked out in recent years. Can they figure that out at quarterback? Can they get a guy who can transcend the situation he's in. That's why you got to go get one of those guys up high. But the Steelers, it would have never worked Bo Nix to Pittsburgh, right? If the Steelers had traded up and drafted Bo Nix with the 6th overall pick or whatever the Broncos used on him, or no, it was the 6th quarterback in the first round is what it was. If the Steelers had traded up, Bo Nix doesn't look like Bo Nix last year. The situation, right? You need a guy who can transcend that. You needed the Drake May or the I'm still going to say it, Caleb Williams or the Jaden Daniels. Obviously, that's the big one, the rookie of the year. You need one of those guys in Pittsburgh who can transcend the system, hopefully, and win because of himself and not just because the coaching is there. If you're getting a quarterback that you need to coach to success, I don't trust the Steelers to do that under the current regime. All right. I'm going to stop it there, you guys. It's been fun. A lot of fun, a lot of questions, a lot of talking, a lot of great comments from you guys is what I'm meaning to say. Last thing I get, Afton says, Betts, I'm just impressed nobody griped about Najee's comments. Yeah. I mean, I thought for sure we'd have some of those in here today. I thought we'd have some more on my Twitter feed as well, but we didn't. It's okay. Najee Harris, you go enjoy those facilities, all the shiny stuff in their weight room and stuff. And, go take a look at their trophy room and see see the zero shiny stuff that they've got in there. Nothing going in the trophy room. So that's legacy talk though. Steelers aren't winning Super Bowls right now. So I get it. Maybe the facilities have some pull to them, but let's see what they can put together this year. Bring in Aaron Rodgers, draft your quarterback next year. That's my plan at the quarterback spot. QB or not QB, that is the question. If we're talking from a draft perspective, I say not QB this year. If we're talking about bringing Aaron Rodgers in, I say get that QB in, see what he can do this year. Go get your QB of the future next year. All right, good stuff. Thanks to all for chatting with me tonight. We will talk to you next time here on the Steelers Q&A. Y'all be good.